Go.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're having a happy Friday. It's been, God, so much fun today. So why has today been so much fun? Well, today was a little like yesterday, and like another day this week, and another day this week. And what do I mean? Why am I in such a good mood? Well, if you joined us for the crazy testing we've been doing, not only on destruction, but with what I call the running of the NPCs, you'll know why I'm so happy. It has been fantastic. So, not only has this testing gone well, but because this testing has gone well, we're going to have a weekend test. And a weekend test with alphas, beta 1s, and IT. And for you beta 2 folks, if this test over the weekend goes well, we're going to invite you into the next one. So everyone gets covered. And yeah, it's been great. There were oh my God, so many moments. Tim was trying to hold off a couple hundred NPCs, and they were chasing him all over the place, and he was doing great until he waited just a tick too long, and they killed him, which made us all smile, of course, because Tim was being Tim. Yeah, I can do this, and then they killed him. Other players were doing that as well. Players were just sitting in the midst of 1,500 of our NPCs and running through them like you were running through, I don't know, 10, 20, players. It was awesome. The only non-awesome time was when certain people were spawn camping, and as well when certain people tried to log in the middle of 1,500 or even 1,000 of our NPCs, and one unfortunately got quite angry, which is a shame. He logged out before I could actually talk to him and explain, hey, the reason you're dying right now is because we're doing this craziness. But aside from that, it's fantastic. So you'll see it over the weekend. We can't wait to get even more alphas and betas in, and absolutely look at the madness. Now, please read, and I'll say that again, read. Well, that's a kind of higher voice. Got to work on that. The email, because if you have an older PC or you have a laptop and your laptop tends to run hot, this is most likely not the test you want to be in, because this is the test with a 9.4 million block, building gets destroyed. This is also the test where at the end we bring in lots and lots of NPCs. So this is absolutely a stress test. So if you want to see what madness looks like, if you want to see an engine that can do what no other engine we have seen can do, please join us. And if you even have an older rig, I think, what did the person say? He was coming in, don't want to mention his name, just in case he didn't want it mentioned, an 860M, and it was actually running at 11 FPS, which is a little higher than I thought it would run. So, even if you're a little older and you don't have, or a little older rig, and you don't have the latest and greatest, or you didn't buy the latest and greatest at the time, this is, you should be okay. But if you're coming out something really old and something that tends to overheat in modern games, yeah, this will definitely overheat. So, having said all that, long story short, TLDR, it's been a great week. We got so much done, and if you haven't been in our test in certainly even the last couple weeks, you're going to be really surprised at what you see. And with that, let's get to the top 10ish, and one of the reasons you're going to be surprised is building performance. So Rob spent the week working on building performance, trying to eliminate the hitches around building destruction. Are we there yet? No. Are we so much better than we were a few weeks ago? Yes. Are we light years better where we were with the bouncing castles and the bouncing keeps? So much better. We no longer launch things into the air. Small pieces actually do, usually track nicely. Sometimes you'll see some stuttering, or when the pieces can't actually find their rest state. But we do eventually get that fixed. We will get that fixed, but they eventually also fix themselves, in a few seconds. So it's so much better. And oh wait, I did forget to mention, this test this weekend, it's the big one. This is not the one that we ran 2 weeks ago with 120 trebuchets. This is with 200 trebuchets, and the one that starts with over 1,000 NPCs, trebs, and other siege engines. Sorry, forgot to mention that. So yes, destruction is so much better, and will get better over certainly the remainder of probably the game's lifetime. Like so many other things, it's something we're going to keep working on. But it's pretty awesome as it is. Number 2, work in progress. Another tech item, lighting. George has done some amazing work on the lighting. It says amazing here. And Sky Dome for the game. And that's exactly correct. So one of the things that, if you were in our test just a week ago, you saw things looked a little washed out, a little too bright. So George has been working on that. We've got some fixes that we may cherry pick over for the test tomorrow, but we've got, if not, they'll be going in next week. That has a lot of improvements. Number 3, another work in progress. Tech Dave was working on clouds. And look, the clouds in our game haven't changed very much since the beginning. Dave has been working on that and how they work with Sky Dome, and you'll see not only better looking clouds, but cloud shadows, reflections, very much improved from just a couple of weeks ago. Number 4, work in progress item, tech collision sounds. So Logan continued his work on material-based collision sound effects. Obviously, this is one of those items that seems kind of minor. On the other hand, it really isn't, because it's all part of making our engine feel more like a game. And as I've been saying now for months, that's what would continue to do. And people who logged in today's test, for example, and hadn't been here in a while, were kind of amazed at how much things have changed, and going to change even more in the coming months. Number 5, another work in progress tech item, projectile collisions. So Matt addressed a long-standing issue where projectile collisions on the server would not actually remove the projectile if the game server was busy. Yeah, okay, that's something we needed to take care of. He also cleaned up some of our networking between the physics and our proxy servers, so the game server will have to send a lot less data. So, what does that mean? It means that when you go into the game and you watch, for example, 1,500 NPCs running at each other with players, being in the middle, that the projectile trails are so much better than they used to be. Are they perfect? No, God, no. But so much better. Number 6, another work in progress tech item, support classes. So Anthony spent his time this week fleshing out what the core components of support abilities, melodies and harmonies, and barbershop quartets, and will generally look like. If I had more time, I would have actually had something funny to say with that. But I didn't spend enough time reading this, because it's much more fun not to read it other than to edit it before now. Number 7, work in progress world map. Ben has been busy creating a map of the game world. Once again, hey, making the engine feel more like a game. Number 8, work in progress, VFX mages. Mike has been busy working on VFX for mages. The druid has new effects for chaos projection and explosion shapes. So hopefully you can get in this weekend and see some of that. Number 9, work in progress tech focus item support. So in a joint effort, so nice in joint efforts that we make here, between Christina and Anthony, we now support having focus items with modify abilities. This will allow focus items like wands, scepters, and gauntlets to modify abilities, which was the whole damn point of having them anyway. So yay, again, more game. Maybe you guys will go and gals will go in and see, wow, we really are starting to feel like a game. Number 10, work in progress UI ability builder. So AJ has finished work on the new ability builder UI. It is currently in art and code review. So what does that mean? Obviously it means we are getting really close to not having to use the great and powerful Dev UI to build abilities. So you've seen some screenshots, you've seen where we want to go with it. Hopefully you folks like it. Number 11, work in progress, UI crafting. So AJ has made some changes to the crafting UI, so it will now accept changes to ingredients. Recipe items will now allow for any alloy of type X or any item with this tag instead of just restricted items. Oh, sorry, specific items. I wonder if that will have any effect on the crafting. Who knows, right? So, number 12, work in progress, Tech Mesh Simplifier. So, Lee has made even more improvements to the Mesh Simplifier. His new code gave us another decent performance improvement. And what the heck is a Mesh Simplifier? Well, if you look at the building and you look what happens during destruction, it becomes one big mess. And so, God, that went right over Max's head. He didn't even react. One big mess, and it's a mesh simplifier.
Oh, Lord.
There we go. That's what I expected from him. But that's actually what it does, all joking aside. In order to do what we're doing with the buildings, we have to be able to draw them quickly. And so that's what a mesh simplifier does. And it really...
You said it wrong.
Yeah, I know, right. and that's the point. Because it is simplifying a mess as well. Because if you look at our building, so if you look at what, we're doing the Porch Reveals, great work, it's a mess. I mean, a few minutes into it, with all the trebuchets firing and the archers and the magic mortars and the scorpions, there's a lot of damage to it. And so we have to recalculate and speed up how the thing is going to be drawn. And so that's what he's working on. Number 14, another work in progress tech, terrain height. So Lee has tracked down the last known bug that was causing terrain height queries to misbehave in buildings. So does this mean you can absolutely guaranteed that you can walk up, whether it's buildings, whether it's rocks, whether it's anything else perfectly? No, not yet. This is an ongoing battle. As most of you probably know, because almost all of you have played MMOs, that is something that has plagued even MMOs at launch. Do we want to, if not plagued, bothered? Is that something we want to get right beforehand? Oh, absolutely. But it is vastly improved from where it was a number of months ago. Number 14, tech, ability bug fixes. So Caleb fixed some bugs within the ability system. So, yay. Bug fixing, so nice when it's, again, things that have to do with gameplay. Number 15, animation, player movement. This week, Mike D landed some improvements on movement animations. Players should start to see a more fluid animation on their characters. So this is an ongoing thing. Obviously, if you've been in the game, you've seen the improvements. You also see some things that are still not there. We're never probably going to say, okay, hey, all work on animation is done, mainly because we have a very flexible system, and that's the sort of thing that always needs tweaking and improvements. But it keeps getting better and better, and that's what's important. Number 16, animation longbows. So this week, Sandra made generic longbow idols for all 3 realms, and she also made a shared longbow generic fidget. So yeah, that's it for the top 10-ish, top 16 for today. And let's get to questions. I want to make this short because I want to get back to testing. It's been fun. I love bringing in the NPCs, and I've been filming some great footage about what's going on.
You'll let me know when you want to do a 5-minute warning?
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty.
Now make a guess.
Oh, okay. I'll guess wrong for sure. George jumped in with a comment where most game studios simplify their meshes in expensive slow tools offline. We dynamically generate nearly everything. So we need to have a system that can come up with the lowest poly version of a building or terrain on the fly. This is a hard problem and one that's very fun to work on.
So yeah, that's what happens when you have, a guy who works on stuff like that give you an explanation versus mine. So thank you, George, for a much more accurate, in-depth, and I am sure fulfilling answer to the folks. But That's exactly what it is. And it's really important for us. It's something, again, we couldn't do what we're doing with building destruction without it. So it's a very important piece of tech, and it's something that we're going to continue to work on once again until we, if it is even possible, to reach a point where we just can't improve it anymore.
Lee says it's a fun one to work on.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Real Life Gobbo asks, how will doors work? Will they swing open/closed or teleport you inside/outside?
Oh, we certainly want the open and closed thing. If we had to fall back to, yeah, we teleport you, sure. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's not terribly important, which it does, because if you can open a door or smash through a door or teleport through a door and the door swings open or just teleports you, we would rather have the realism. But again, at the end of the day, that's not important to me because there are far more important things than that. But we'll see what happens.
Lotaween asks, since I need to replace my 860M anyway, can you reveal what the maximum field of view will be so I can decide on buying 1 or 3 monitors for my new game build?
So this is definitely a conversation to have. I'll also loop Andrew in down the road when you're ready to buy it. You know what I'm going to say about buying it now. Obviously don't, unless you need it for some other game. But that's certainly, it's funny because Andrew last week this week made mention of field of view in an email and some changes he made in camera controls or FOV controls. So yes, we will have that conversation and you'll be part of it.
Undead Freddy asks, is there a stated philosophy on what we want Time to Kill to look like?
Sure. And it sounds it's a terrible developer answer, but it's true. We want it to feel just right, and that's terrible. I know it's awful. But the philosophy is we don't want it to be too quick. We've said no one-shotting. We've said unless you're being hit by 500 NPCs at the same time, which happened to some people in the game today. We don't want it, assuming that 2 players are matched, the right kind of matchup. We don't want it to be quick. We don't want it to be one shot. We don't want it to be a couple shots and you die, because that does not allow you to make the kind of tactical, tactical choices that we want you to be able to make in this game. So it's going to be, again, it's a terrible answer, and I really apologize for it. But we want it to feel right. We want it to feel like you had a chance in the battle, that maybe if you tried a different strategy, maybe you would have beaten this person. And if it happens too quickly, that it isn't. It's who gets in the first shot and you die. We don't want that to be the case. So, again, I do apologize. I hate those kind of answers. They sound so weaselly. But it is the answer, because you don't want to say, well, it must take 30 seconds to kill another player. Well, but what if the other player has this and the other player has that? Well, then maybe it's a little faster. How much is a little faster? So it's terrible. I know, and I am sorry. But if it was just a general, would we rather be a little bit slower than a little bit faster? We would probably say we want it a little bit slower than faster. We don't want it slow. Let me be very clear about that. But we don't want it to feel like you went to all this trouble to play the game, to go out with your group, and you died so quickly that, it wasn't any fun. We certainly don't want that.
Cyvius asks, in the testing doc, there is an ignore below this line in all caps, followed by known issues. Are we to ignore those known issues and report them?
Yeah, anything below the line, ignore. It's just that we like to keep some of that around for when we might need to bring it back up in terms of, hey, this is another known issue. It's also, there will be times where with some of those issues, they re-emerge, because they do. Or that we'll want you to focus on some things that could be in that, list that we haven't fixed yet. So yeah, just ignore anything, below there.
Korstrak says, this is Ian the intern. Have there been any changes to the corner I worked in last summer?
Ian!
Did that TV come to any use?
Ian! So good to hear from you. Can't wait to see you here again. That corner since you were there. No, it's still a mess, actually. So yeah, no, it's all good. TV's up, running great. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you soon.
Giraffe asks, will the development team step in to ensure fair play in a 1v1v1 game like this? Or if teaming and other things like that become prevalent, will it be written off as something that happens?
Got it. When you said step in, I thought, wait, we're going to jump in and make sure. Okay, guys, no, you can't do that. Oh, no, we've been really clear that this game has to be fun for small groups, even 1v1v1, or 8 men or 10 men, or whatever the number turns out to be. We do want to be friendly to solo players, because, hey, I generally am a solo player. So that's important. But we certainly do not want it to be either something that where we feel we've had to compromise on the overall fun just to say, well, we have to, do this for all classes. Because I know I've said in many streams that not all classes are equal in their ability to solo. If you're trying to solo a healer, probably not, Five Guys.
That answers another question.
Seriously? What did I have for lunch?
Undead Freddy. Five Guys or Shake Shack?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Oh, yeah. The color scheme. Five Guys. A chain that started in Virginia. Just saying for all those people who think Virginia is lacking anything, we created Five Guys. Anyway. So, yes, some classes will be better at soloing. Other classes will not. Groups are, of course, important to this game. Just a wee little bit. So, it's one of those delicate balance things that we're going to be looking at forever. And for the Dark Age of Camelot players among you, you know what I mean by forever. Like forever. And ever.
Captain Panic asks, how do you feel about macros? Will there be an in-game macro making system like some other MMOs?
So I think macros absolutely can serve a purpose. I think macros that are used, or abused are not. But there are some things that, let's face it, it's not like you can't keyboard macros and things. So will we have our, a full macro system? We'll discuss that. I'm not against them unless they are abused, unless you use them to somehow exploit. But as a player who happily uses macros in other games, as long as you're not doing that, I don't have a problem with it.
Daruj has a detailed question about crafting. UI changes to crafting inputs to allow different materials to be added in slots for a recipe. Does this represent new crafting functionality or just a change to the UI? Will it change the output item or just allow different inputs for the same item?
Well, it's certainly allow different inputs. One of the things that I've been very clear about from the beginning with the crafting system is what you folks were seeing was just the first pass. It was always my intent, it was in the documents, that you could be able to use different kinds of metals, for example, to make an alloy. So yeah, this is just stuff that we've been waiting to do, and we're doing it. Oh, and by the way, we have more stuff coming on crafting. I don't want to say when yet because we're still chatting about it, but we've got some more changes incoming. And you'll like it. I guarantee you the folks will like it. This change, again, this is something we needed to do. We've been waiting to do, and we did it. And the stuff that's coming later, same idea.
Odelvik asks, a long time ago, in an office far, far away, I once asked MJ if there was a hidden meaning to the CSE logo, to which MJ said yes, and he might share it with us one day. Is this the day we are looking for?
To the logo? Or our name?
It says logo.
Okay. I didn't tell that story yet? I thought I did. I guess
I
not.
don't recall it.
Yeah, well, I told the CSE story. I know that.
The name, yeah.
Yeah, the name yet. Huh. What time is it?
4:28.
No. Another day. I promise. I had totally forgotten that. I thought I had talked about it, but today is not the day. I really need to get back to testing. So, but I promise. It is upcoming stream in the next few weeks. 5 minutes, guys. Like I said, I really want to get back to the test. We're making a slight change live, and I want to be there. I want to make sure that's working as it needs to. Won't say intended.
5-minute warning, folks, and I'm looking for a nice question to end with. All Hail the Crimson King asks, in a lot of games, the player with the faster internet gets an advantage over somebody with a bit slower connection. Is City State going to address this in any way?
Sure. So the question is, when you talk about fast versus slow, if you get your shot in before that person, and they're either ability cooldown, because obviously there's ability cooldowns. If that had passed and they get a shot in just before you do, because you have a slower internet, there's nothing we're going to do about that. I mean, we can't tell in that case whether it's really due to a slower internet or you just were a little bit behind. On the other hand, because of the way the system works, if you're lagged out, actually we're much better, or we'll be much better as well, dealing with that, as we already are. So, we're not trying to balance or create this game so that a player who's coming in from, say, let's assume the servers were in the U.S., somebody who's coming in from Virginia has to wait until somebody comes in who they're fighting from Europe, simply because it's not the kind of game. This is not a turn-based game in that sense, or it's not a game where it's move counter move, which I guess you could say the same thing. So on the other hand, for people who are lagged out, who are having issues, that's a whole different story. So, we're not going to, there's no way we could, really determine on a action-by-action basis if somebody across the pond is a little bit slower. But because this is not an action game, because you can't spam abilities, because there are no abilities with zero cooldown, then it shouldn't be a problem. It really shouldn't. Not that kind of just, hey, it's a little bit further. Because it doesn't matter whether it's a slower internet, really, or you're just further away. And from what we've seen so far, especially in the tests we run during the day, our European players have been kicking the butt of a bunch of players who are not European. So I think they're doing just fine with the longer round trip time back to their homes. So I think we're in pretty good shape there, especially now.
I don't really have a good one to end with. HopCX really wants to know whether a hot dog in a bun is a sandwich.
The age-old debate, right? Is a hot dog in a bun a sandwich? I'll definitely go on the no. Just like burgers aren't really a sandwich, they're burgers. But then that's just old school interpretation of the word sandwich.
All right.
But then is a meatloaf sandwich a sandwich, and all it has is the meatloaf as opposed to the burger? Is that a difference, right?
Lotta Ween asks, could you expound upon the utility of having a single spawn point for all three realms?
That would be called a mistake. If you're talking about today's test, that was a bug, and that's what we're trying to fix right now, because yes, it kind of was bad. We don't know how that happened. Ben had put 3 different spawn points up in the map, and all of a sudden we're seeing that people are spawning close, and I start yanking in them, hoping that would like separate them, and then they die and come back right in the middle. So yes, bug. Luckily, hopefully, we fixed that, and it is. We tested it very quickly on wormling prep, and we moved it over to wormling, and we'll see how it goes. But no, that was we. We will find out, but we have no reason. We have no idea what happened. But Ben's lovely spawn points, which actually have TDD spawning within the castle, Arthurian spawning in the middle, and Vikings spawning, elsewhere, wasn't working. And for those Vikings who kept coming in anyway, going forward, you won't be able to do that, not tonight or tomorrow, in this kind of map. This is stuff we needed, to have anyway. And in the meantime, there might be a Viking jail that if you go in, you'll spawn in a little box, so you can't get out of the box when we only really want two realms playing, especially because all of you were spawn camping, and that little box was my idea. I kind of like that notion. I was also toying with the idea of maybe putting you folks up on the top of the hill, but then I realized you might be able to actually use that to, given the range of our archers and mage abilities, you could probably rain death down on the players, and because that elevation actually works in our game, they might not be able to hit you in return. So yes, Viking jail.
One more?
If you got a good one. If not, that wasn't bad. But if you got a good one, sure.
I like it. Swipper asks, once you feel comfortable with Siege and how it works, what do you think you will work on next?
So, in terms of scenarios, we'll take this scenario, make some changes to it, and have it set up for a proper Siege scenario. This is not a Siege scenario when we're doing a stress test. It's chaos. It's insanity. It's Total War, Camelot style. So we want to do that. After that, Ben and I chatted this morning about what scenarios I'd like to see. We want to get to ability testing now that most of the abilities are in for the core classes that we wanted for Beta 1, and we want to get you folks doing that. So once the ability builder's in, once we have some crucial things that we need for ability testing, we'll have at least one, if not two scenarios, different scenarios for you folks to test abilities. And that also will mean we'll need some tech for things like, blocking out unwanted classes or unwanted, realms during certain ability tests. So, yeah, that's the next thing on my, big list for the studio. From my end, I know I've got crafting on my plate. I worked with Ben on a, dyeing design, and so, we're going to talk that through some more. And then the thing I can't tell you about yet, that I'll be telling you about once I'm sure that we're going to do it. And you'll love it. It's great. We have talked about it in the distant past, I believe, but I'm not 100% sure. So rather than talk about it now, I'll wait till I'm sure that we are going to be doing it. I think we're going to be doing it. Pretty confident. So having said that, folks, for those of you who celebrate, Happy Easter in advance. Have a good weekend. For those folks, unfortunately, in France, and for those who are, lovers of great works, our absolute condolences on what happened, to Notre Dame. A terrible, and tragic loss. Fortunately, the damage wasn't as bad as it could have been, and it's going to be rebuilt, which is fantastic. So hopefully we'll see that happening before our eyes sooner rather than later. And as somebody who went through certainly 9/11 in New York, being a New Yorker, seeing something rebuilt, even though there's no connection there, is almost cathartic. So hopefully folks in France and and in other places will enjoy seeing it be restored to its glory. I remember visiting there, and it's quite the achievement. So having said all that, folks, have an absolutely great weekend. Hopefully you'll spend it with family and friends, and spend some time with us during our weekend test. You'll get an update about it. I'm not sure what day it'll be, but there will be a test this weekend of the crazy Siege stuff that we've been testing for the last couple days, or Siege setup for the last couple days, and the Siege stuff that we've been testing for weeks. There is nothing quite as cool as watching all those weapons fire in the beginning, and watching the fireballs and, again, magic mortars and everything just going flawlessly. It's very, very, very good for us to see that as a company, and very fantastic for me to see it as the guy who, along with Andrew, said, yeah, we can do this. Well, we proved it, and we're going to continue to prove it to you folks from this day forward, because now we can say Siege can be part of any scenario. It can be part of a Siege scenario. It can be part of a game that is not totally Siege-based. We can knock down a door, as was mentioned earlier, versus having to knock down a castle. So it's really, oh, God, I can't even find the right word other than fantastic to see what I've, been seeing and recording for the last few weeks. So, again, hope to see you then, and if not, have a great weekend. And I think I'm here next week, so I will see you all next week. Bye.
See you later.